Successfully teaching ESL to adults. Learning patterns of adults are obviously different from children. Adults are more self-directed and they demand a more formal classroom environment. Here are 8 tips for teaching ESL to adults. The first tip is to make the class relevant for the age of the students. This means that the level of the material should be appropriate for the level of the student. You shouldn't be using the same lessons that you use for children with adults. The games that you play within the classroom should have a definite and clear aim and a goal that is similar to that of what you're teaching, and you should know your students. You should know their interests, that way you can incorporate those interests in the classroom. The second tip is passion. You need to show your adult students that you're passionate about teaching English as a second language. You should try not to bring personal problems to the classroom because the adult students will pick up on the fact that you're angry or sad or upset. You should always be positive and upbeat. This will help encourage your students to speak more and it will help them learn better. The third tip is ask questions. You need to foster a safe learning environment for your adult students. That way they feel comfortable speaking. Learning a new language is hard and it usually causes a lot of stress and anxiety for adult learners. Therefore, if you foster a safe environment, the students will feel more comfortable and they will speak more. You should be frequently asking your students if they have any questions, because some learners are shy and there is also a language barrier. They might not want to ask a question if you aren't offering some time for them to ask questions in. And remember to have an open dialogue. Always ask your students if there's something that they would like to learn, or if they have questions, or just ask them how they're feeling, and that way they will be more engaged and feel more comfortable within your classroom. The fourth tip is engagement. You should always include all of your students in discussions. Make sure that in every class, every student gets a chance to speak, and you should value the opinions of your students. If somebody says something that you might not necessarily agree with, you should be valuing that opinion. Number 5 is learning styles. You should know your students' learning styles. That way you can incorporate a variety of teaching styles in your classroom that will hit all of those students' learning styles. So maybe some people are more visual learners. You can use videos in order to help them understand some of the concepts. Maybe some people need repetition. You should be repeating things in the classroom. That way they pick up on it, etc. Flexibility is the 6th tip. You should be open to change. With adult learners, maybe there's something that's happening in the news that day that they want to speak about. You can always deviate from your lesson plan for some time. Remember that the goal is to have the students speak. So as long as they're speaking and talking about something, they're learning. They're learning new vocabulary. Maybe they're practicing their grammar, practicing some vocabulary that you've gone over previously. You can deviate from your lesson plan slightly. Be flexible with it, and don't worry if you get off topic, you can always go back later. Correcting adult students is always a very difficult task, especially when there's an age difference between the teacher and the students. If the teacher is younger than the adult students, it can be difficult for the student to be corrected by the teacher, but it can also be difficult for the teacher to correct the student. So in order to do this properly, when you're making corrections, you should be positive. Don't only point out the negative, but also point out what they've done properly when they've spoken or when they've written something. And remember to be respectful. There's no point in being rude about making corrections. The students are there to learn from you, so you should always be respectful when you're correcting. The final tip, number 8, is to encourage your students and to have fun. Remember that you want them to feel comfortable in the classroom. As I said before, most adult students in the beginning of their language learning usually feel nervous and anxious about having to speak in a foreign language. So you should make them feel comfortable when they are speaking and encourage them to speak as often as you can. You should also use a variety of activities to make the class more fun. You can maybe do a lesson on a song using music or videos, and you should always give the students an opportunity to speak. Give them as many opportunities to speak as possible. Remember, the class should be student-centered, not teacher-centered. So there's no need for you to be lecturing the students constantly, but you need to give them an opportunity to speak and voice their opinion. So, just a reminder that teaching adults can be challenging, but it's also a lot of fun and it's an extremely rewarding thing to do.